Joining us this morning, County Commissioner Dan Claypool, who's also your president, right?
I am president of the board this year, yes.
And we wanted to get Danny in here. Usually he doesn't show up on Fridays, but it was about the best time we could work it. Saw your name in the paper yesterday. I think it was the Gazette, regarding recycling. Big issue.
Recycling is going to be a big issue for the remaining of this year, or until there's a decision made on how we proceed forward with the new EPA plan that the county was given. Because there are some requirements in the plan that are going to cost more money than what the solid waste district brings in. So there are a couple of different options the counties have available to them. Neither are very popular solutions, at least from my mind. One is an assessment on an improved parcel, which is a property tax or a property assessment, or to raise the generation fees for the tonnage that goes to our landfill. So we held two hearings the other day in regards to meeting with the elected officials to get their feel on what they'd be, because the commissioners are not comfortable in either one of these options. We don't.
Danny, is this I want to say back 6, 7, 8 months ago, somebody showed up at the council meeting and said they didn't mandate it, but they were telling you that it was going in that direction, that the city had to get into recycling itself. Is that kind of like under the same premise here?
Yeah, is this going to become mandatory for all communities? Or
Personally, from my point of view, I think that everybody, at least in this plan, should be required to do curbside recycling and pay for it themselves. Everybody should be touched by it. But our providers say that really cannot be done in the rural areas of our county. That there's just not the density, and it's just not cost effective to do curbside recycling. That is the fairest, at least in my mind, the way to do it.
If you're in a rural area and you're paying for it.
But they say it's cost prohibitive for them to provide it because of the density. The first thing that there is no money in recycling. You know, I mean, it really isn't. It's not a money maker for anybody. It costs money to recycle. It's a good thing to do. It is a great thing to do, but there's not a lot of money. We're a long ways from a recycler or a place to process it. So between the transportation costs and collection costs, it's just not a business, or you could create a business plan where it would be profitable. So that's why there's a cost associated with it. There's two ways that are being suggested, at least to the Board of County Commissioners, to pay for this program. And one is a generation fee where we would raise the cost associated with every ton of waste that went to the landfill. And that is one way to do it. So the larger people that create the waste pay more.
Okay. People
that create less. But then you're tying it to the amount of waste that goes to the landfill, and in recycling, that's sort of a good thing, but it sort of shoots yourself in the foot, because the more you recycle, the less goes to the landfill, and the less money you collect. The second option is the creation of an assessment on every improved parcel in the county. Now, an improved parcel is any parcel that has an improvement on it, a building, a structure, something as that. A vacant lot, an agricultural field, things like that are not considered improved parcels. There's about 44,000 improved parcels, give or take, in the county. And the amount of money that's being suggested is around $6 a year.
Okay, I was going to ask you.
It's about $6 a year for this program. Commissioners are very uncomfortable, or at least I'm very uncomfortable. I don't want to talk for the other two commissioners. I'm very uncomfortable putting that assessment on, when in fact there are other people in the county, the city of Geneva, there are people even in the unincorporated areas that already have recycling, and I don't believe that they should have to pay twice. They shouldn't have to pay their provider for recycling and then pay this assessment on top of that. That just strikes me as not being fair.
Yeah.
So at least in my mind, and this was the option that the majority of the board was going to look at, is just saying if we have to do recycling, let's just bite the bullet and everybody do curbside recycling.
Danny, it would be only $6 is all it would be though, for the whole year? Is that what you mean?
Yes, on your improved parcel.
See, I was thinking it would be like $6 a month.
No. But that's just to run these recycling centers, and we've talked about those before. The drop-off points. Drop-off points, at least in my mind, have never been a successful way to recycling, because people don't use them as recycling centers, or a lot of people don't use them. I shouldn't say they're not. A lot of people don't use them as recycling centers. They're used as dumps.
Well, we got one right over here.
It's garbage collections, and you can see them, and I just don't think, I know that's the way that is suggested, or the way that, not suggested, the way that is written in the EPA plan, of having a number of these sites, but they have been very unsuccessful in my mind towards recycling, because we get tires and TVs and mattresses, and
sofas.
Yeah, I remember the problem that we had down on Lake Road at the old fire department.
Right.
It was a horrible, horrible thing for those neighbors. I remember finally convincing city council to move that. And they moved it in an attempt to improve the situation, and it just got bad. It got so bad that we had to put cameras up, and we had to do enforcement. So I think we're just continuing a plan that wasn't a good one to begin with. So but I don't believe people should pay more than once for that, and that's why I just believe if we did a countywide recycling program, curbside, everybody that has curbside rubbish pickup, do that. I think that's just the fairest way. You just pay whatever it's going to cost by your provider, and we move on.
Okay. Yeah, as I mentioned, we have a mess on our hands over here with this compost center, which turned into another dump. And it's going to cost the city a lot of money to clean that thing up.
I don't believe out of this plan you're going to see those composting sites continue. You're going to see those go away because they're so costly to operate. This curbside, there are some entities within the county that actually has this curbside pickup where the cities and the village comes out and actually picks up tree debris, things like that, yard waste, and then they take them to these sites. But it is so costly, that they can't afford to do it anymore.
Switch gears just a little bit, Dan. Anything new on the drilling situation?
Well, we had a meeting with the chief of the oil and gas.
Yes, I read that.
Mr. Eggleston and Mr. Church were there, and I thought it was a really good meeting. I think that they came there and they were very honest with us about what they were doing. It took a lot of persuasion by a number of state representatives and a number of state senators to get them to come up here to talk to us. So I really give kudos to Representative Patterson, Creek Farrell, a representative from Youngstown area, Sean O'Brien, who helped. So, but they came up and they were very honest. And in listening to them, they're the messengers. They're the enforcement officers. The law is provided by the legislators. It's very clear in what their mission is, and they have to follow the law. So the law provides in the way these permits are given, and who can get these permits and who doesn't. And I really believe the answer is in changing the law. They're not going to be able to do anything different than what the law allows them to do. So I understand that part of it, being from law enforcement. You're only the messenger. You know what I mean? The legislator describes the conditions in which this moves forward, and it is very clear that they cannot deny a permit that fits all of the criteria that the legislators have created.
Well, didn't they say in the story that I read, maybe you can help me with this, Steve, I thought they said that they were thinking about having a public hearing.
They said they would consider it. The law does not provide for these public hearings. And I would just say it would be a precedence for them if they did this. Now they said they would consider.
But don't you think that's wrong? I mean,
I do. And there's a lot of things in the law that I think might be wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? As it meets the people here, and I'm sure down in Columbus they had a reason on why they didn't want to do this.
Yeah.
I do think it's wrong, but I do understand the position that the Ohio Department of Natural Resources is in. Is once they start this, then they're going to have to continue
doing it.
And the law does not prohibit it. It doesn't provide for it, though. And it just, if they do one here, and they said they would honestly consider it, we would hold it in the county. I told them we would control it, and that, you know, that it would be civil, because that was one of the things they said, that they have had hearings and they become very uncivil.
Right.
And really, people have to understand, these are the messengers. They're being sent out. So these are not the people you want to condemn. It's those people that create the laws that these people have to follow. So they were very honest, very open about it. I'm so happy that they came up. We did express our displeasure at them ignoring us. I thought that was a very rude behavior.
What was their answer?
Well, they accepted that they believe it was.
Dan, you probably remember this. You were just a young officer back then, but back in the 70s when U.S. Steel wanted to come here, they used to have hearings on that. And those meetings, because there were people opposed to that happening, those got wild. I mean, you know, you do have to keep your thumb on the thing, or they do get out of hand.
I've been to a number of public hearings. There are a number of emotional issues, and this is one of them. This is very important to the people, and that's why I think it is so important that the state hear the people of Ohio. Not just in Ashtabula County, but the state legislators hear this. You know, I believe that there are a number of them, maybe not all of them, are out of touch with what is important to the people of Ohio. This just gives a voice to those people who want to speak to those legislators, because these hearings are recorded, they're taken back, and they can listen or they can ignore them. But at least the people get heard. And I believe that in our society, or at least in our process, it is important that the people at least have the opportunity to be heard.
Dan, do you think, do you think that Columbus ignores our end of the state?
I don't think that Columbus ignores our end of the state any more than many other areas. I believe that the way our system is set up, there is a density in the Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati area.
Right.
And those people have, you know, they have learned over the years how to condense their voice, and they have the majority. And it's just we're in a minority in a rural area such as what we are, but we're no different than a Columbiana County or a Benton County or another county that only has one representative in our county. In ours, we actually have two.
Right.
Like 1.5 or something. But we only have one voice. When you go to the city of Cleveland, and there might be 20 state representatives in that collective urban area, it gives them a voice down there.
Yeah.
You know, so, and then they consolidate that with a Columbus and a Cincinnati, it gives them a very loud voice. And they've learned how to use that. And their urban problems are completely different than our rural problems. So it's just a difficult situation to work with. It's almost like, you know, in a county commissioner's position, you know, going in the southern area of our county, there's different needs in the southern area of our county as in the northern area. And you have to understand that. Now, you just spread that statewide, and there's a lot of differences.
I had a caller yesterday, Dennis. You know Dennis Toth.
Sure.
Long time letter writer in the Star Beacon and that. But he wanted me to ask you where the turbine situation on Lake Erie is.
It's sort of, I want to say it's stalled. It's not, we had applied for a grant to move that forward, and the grant was not given to us, but they did give us $5 million to continue with the engineering and continue the program. And we're like on a wait list, so to speak. They really wanted to develop these in the eastern part of the United States, out on the ocean.
Right.
There has never been one done on fresh water, and one of the large concerns is the icing that we have and the movement of the icing. In saltwater, you don't have the ice to deal with, And we had spent a lot of time and a lot of effort with Cleveland State and Case Western and some other universities to try and deal with that problem, and we think we have it dealt with. But our case apparently was not worthy enough, or we didn't impress the evaluators enough for us to get that grant. But we're still working on it. In fact, there's the Erie County is inquiring about joining our coalition to see if there's that. So there is still a lot of interest of wind power on the Great Lakes.
One of his other questions was, speaking of Erie, have you heard, are we in any different situation with that project that the Erie wants to put together that would include a little bit of Conneaut?
As far as I know, that project is moving forward. These projects take years to develop.
Yeah.
You know, it isn't like, you know, you start with an idea and then you build a consensus, and then, you know, you try to then implement it. But it takes years to put these projects together, you know. The same as like this wind project. It takes years to do that. It isn't something that would just develop overnight. You know, you remember the old steel mill, you know, that took years, and then the decision was not to build it because the economy all changed in that time.
And Spear died.
And that's what happens in these projects. You know, you could do a number of projects and maybe one develops out of it because of different circumstances that run through it. But you have a lot of time and effort in all of these.
And you know what, Danny? We're talking, what, 76, back in that, when that steel mill, 75, 76, when that was being talked about. That's what, 40, almost 40 years ago? Steel mill probably would be gone now.
Because things have changed.
Because things have changed. The same with this, we fought for the Saturn plant. They don't even make them anymore, I don't think, do they?
These companies live and die. You know, we just worked a project. It was an exciting project. It was going to be a $55 million investment in our county. And we worked with this group, this investment group, and we had a site selection team, and we had worked a lot of the initial parts of this project out. And it come down to it, and their investors backed out, and they just, it's not that the project is dead, but it's like, now they're out seeking different investors.
Yeah.
They, you know, it's $50 million. So
start over again.
But it's not a waste of time to do that, you know. And those are the type of things that you do.
How do you put up with that, though? I'd be so frustrated. 'Cause I'm the type of, I'm impatient.
You can't get impatient. These things take a long time to develop, and you know, if somebody's going to invest $50 million in our county, you know, you have to take a lot of time, and there are a lot of things to work out.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, sometimes these projects, we had a manufacturer that was going to come here. He needed, I forget how many gigabytes of electrical power, and we worked the project, and it got to the point that it was going to take $19 million to build the electrical system necessary to run this. It just, at that point, it just, you know, those type of things just, they end a project. And that's why we think, at least in the county strategy, as we develop a strategy here, we believe that using this older industrial land that is available in our county, what we would call brownfields, is a better solution than going out and taking virgin property and trying to create an infrastructure to put that on.
Okay.
Well, let me talk about one of the things that is sort of exciting, and we're working on it, at least from the county center, it's been talked about for a number of years in the county, and the Board of Commissioners have just decided we're going to move this project ahead. Right. And that's a public safety communication center. And what really drove this is the idea that our emergency operations center was built in the early 80s when Perry went online. And we have a number of problems with it, and we have to rebuild it. So we thought at that point that this might be the opportunity then. Our villages, a number of villages have approached us with their public safety communications, and the sheriff does most of the dispatching for the small fire department. So this might be an opportunity then to expand this and to offer at least a communications center that would accommodate as many of the public safety agencies as we can. And one of the things that they're doing from the state is they're pushing our 911 system, the way it's set up. They want us to rearrange that to have a smaller call center. Instead of each local entity having a call center for 911, they really want one. They've given an opportunity. We can have 3, up to 3, but they really would like you to do 1. So we hired a company out of, we got a grant, and we hired a company out of Pittsburgh, Kimball and Associates, that do this all the time. And that plan is just about done, but we know what it says. And I think the county yet this year is going to move ahead with this communication center plan, where we're going to rebuild our emergency operations center, make it more efficient, what we believe, and then consolidate some of the 911 centers, so it may go to a central answering point there, and then offer this communication services to these other public safety.
You were instrumental back in the day when with 911, before we even had it, I believe, and then you introduced. I can remember doing an interview on the telephone with you back then regarding a thing called reverse 911.
Yes.
Is that still in operation?
It's still in operation, and it's better yet than it has ever been.
Yeah.
We just contracted with a company. The name of the system is like Code Red, but what the Code Red does is it pushes back all this information. So before too long, yet this year, citizens who want weather notifications will be able to go out online and sign up for this. And when there's severe weather or there's something
Like the other night.
yes, like the other night, they would get weather alerts to the email address or maybe to their telephones or things of what they want. So yes, that notification system is available, and
I know. I think
it's better than it ever was.
Our school system use it?
Yes.
Okay.
Most of the schools use it. They're able to identify an area that they want to make these notifications, and it will make just thousands of calls per minute.
Dan, you're from Jefferson, right?
Yes. Well, Lennox, and we are different. And we are different.
They had a tornado rotation in Jefferson Tuesday night, and we were under tornado watch here, or warning actually. Was there a touchdown or anything in your area?
Not that I'm aware of.
I mean,
we got some wind.
Yeah.
We got some wind, but I'm not aware of a touchdown.
Okay, I think they were saying it went from Jefferson across into Pennsylvania, where like Meadville, Linesville areas.
And we got a lot of rain, and I tell you why, because I was on my motorcycle.
Oh.
And we got a lot of rain.
You were out riding?
Well, I was. We got a lot of rain.
Ashtabula County kind of escaped major damage, didn't it?
Yes, major damage it did. There was some, wind and some tree damage, but we did escape the major damage that the other parts of the state experienced.
Oh yeah, west of us,
Sure.
they got flooded.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of water. I can tell you from our farm fields and things, from what I'm saying, we have a lot of water. So we could take a few dry days.
Yeah, and we're going to get about 3, and then it's coming back. Hopefully not as bad as it was those 2 nights. I was telling Steve earlier in their audience out there that my wife's a nutcase when storms hit, and I kind of had to agree with her that one night because it didn't look right outside. It got dark.
It did get really, really dark. Yes. No,
so I didn't tell her that I agreed with her, but I was thinking maybe we should head to a basement or something here.
Well, she'll have to stay on the Emergency Management Agency's website. Go out there, and this service is going to become available very soon. I don't want to say when because I don't know the exact date, but very soon. The commissioners just signed a contract for this service to be permitted, and so we're going to do that.
I want to go back to recycling just a second.
Sure.
Here. Is there any kind of deadline or?
We're actually under the EPA's findings and orders right now, so it isn't like we can put this off. Yes, we have to show the EPA that we are moving forward, or we're going to find ourselves in court.
Really?
So yeah,
they go that far?
Yeah,
oh, absolutely.
Show,
we are under findings and orders right now to implement this plan. And they were at our meeting. We had 2 public meetings. There was some public there, which it was really intended for public officials, because we really want them to go back to their communities. We believe that the public officials in the local communities have the best feel for what their community wants to do. And we asked them to, in writing, give it back to us. What is it that your community wants to see us do? Do you want to see this generation fee, or do you want to see this per parcel fee? I know nobody wants to see a fee, but at some point there's going to have to be an increase. And how do you want it?
Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, Pat.
Hi.
I'd like to read a letter that we sent to the ODNR about the legal notice in the Conneaut paper for the injection well that I think Dan Claypool should hear. We wrote it to them, and we didn't receive a response.
I would only agree with you that we didn't receive a response on either one of our letters either. I mean, it took a lot of wrangling at these from our state representative and our state senator and another state representative who had a personal relationship with the director who got those people to come up here. So I agree with you.
I'd like to read the letter because I think it's important that the city of Conneaut should know this, the individuals.
Okay, go ahead.
If I could.
Sure. As long as it's not too long.
Okay. Recently, Mr. Robert Barnett placed a public notice in the Ashtabula Star-Beacon indicating he was planning to place an injection well in Conneaut Township, Ashtabula County, Ohio. Conneaut Village became Conneaut City in 1902. There is no Conneaut Township, as the rest of Conneaut Township became Lakeville Village in 1944, and on January 1st, 1963, it was annexed to the city of Conneaut. Conneaut Township is extinct, and therefore the published notice is not legal, as it cites a township that no longer exists in Ashtabula County, Ohio. There is, however, a Conneaut Township in Pennsylvania. The notice did not state that this Class II injection well is to be located in the Conneaut city limits. Almost no one knew the well is located within Conneaut city limits. This notice gives the people in the city of Conneaut notice to file objection and comment. As there was not an adequate legal description, the legal notice would need to be corrected and published accurately in the Star-Beacon for at least the same number of days specified. It does not give a legal description of exactly whose property the well is located on or exactly where it is. Lot 40 tells the average citizen nothing. Mr. Barnett recently appeared before council and indicated to the public on cable access TV that he will be injecting just salt and water into the well. That is sodium chloride and water. This is not true and a misrepresentation of what will be injected into the injection well he has made application for. You also, in your letter to Ms. Deanna Gates, indicate that this will be a salt injection well, which is clearly not what it will be injected in the well. He also says in his application that it is the original Conneaut Township, which no longer exists. It appears that both Mr. Barnett and the ODNR do not want the people to know where the well will be located, so that few people will respond and object to the application for a permit. It clearly states in his application that flowback and drilling fluids from fracking will be injected in the well unbeknownst to the citizens of Conneaut, Ohio. Again, Conneaut City is not a township. Therefore, it makes Mr. Barnett's notice invalid. I think the citizens should be made aware of the violations on any other of his wells. We'd appreciate if you would email us this information. And that's public information everyone should know.
And that's signed by who?
My husband and I.
Oh, your husband and you. That's your letter through. That, okay.
The ODNR.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
Bye.
All right. I believe that was Judy Peaceman.
Yeah, no, and I agree, and that's why we had the effort that we did to talk to the people from ODNR. Is I do believe that these people need to be heard, you know, and they need to be able to cite their differences, and then ODNR then needs to make a decision on how they proceed. They were very clear in the law in the way they proceed, and you know, I don't want to speak on their behalf, but there were some things that some questions they asked about the initial permit application. There were some questions going back and forth. I don't want to speak for them and what that response was. But, you know, I think that we've been very clear from the beginning that the Board of County Commissioners, not only the well in Conneaut, the expansion of the wells in Windsor, the expansion of the wells in Lennox or in New Line Township, we believe that the people throughout our county should be heard in Columbus. And we believe that as a public agency, the Howe Department of Natural Resources, I believe, owe it to the people of our county to come up here and participate in a public hearing. I can't make it any clearer than that, and that's the message we sent back to Columbus, and they said they would consider it. Now, again, I will say that the law does not provide that they have to. It does not prohibit it, but it doesn't say they have to. So it is really discretionary, I believe, on behalf of the director.
See, I'm a little vague on this, Dan, right now. I'm not real sure what the real status is out here that we've been talking about.
It's in the application process.
That's it. They're not working there.
It is
Correct.
in the application process. There has not been a permit issued.
Okay.
There were a number of questions that ODNR had of the applicant. I don't know what those responses back.
Yeah, see, I wasn't aware of that.
I'm not privy to that information.
Okay.
I believe that if people have an objection to a well, they should contact ODNR, Gas and Oil Division. Their information is on the internet, and they should send them a written objection. And we are going to continue to push for this public hearing. Now, I don't, you know.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I give Conneaut City Council, the city manager, you know, the city council president, a lot of kudos. Nobody has forgotten this. You know, it just, we got to make our case, but we have to make it civilly. You know, it does nobody any good to become unprofessional and start name calling and saying all these things. You know, they were very clear and they were very upfront about they have a law that they have to follow.
Right.
And they are the messenger from the state legislators. Now, our real mission is to get the law changed. That is our real mission.
That's not going to be easy either.
But that's our mission. You know, if you want to change what happens in these wells, in this application process, then you need to change the application process. In doing that, you have to change the law.
Okay. What else is going on in the county?
Oh, there's a lot of things. You know, I continue, and my passion is jobs. You know, and just I did it for this show. You know, but we did a survey of how many jobs are advertised and available in our county, and there were over 900 jobs available in our county.
Really?
900 jobs, anywhere from healthcare to the service industry to drivers and delivery people to they just 900 jobs.
That's amazing to me.
It is, and we continue to talk about that. Now, you know, I think anybody that needs a job needs to go to the job source on Lake Avenue, and they need to see what they need to do to qualify for these jobs.
Yeah, I agree. Hi, you're on the air.
Yes. Does the county commissioners have anything to do with the Ashtabula County Metro Parks?
No.
You do not?
No, we do not. That's a separate board that's appointed by the probate court. And we really have no jurisdiction or any relationship other than working with them when we can over that parks.
Okay, well, isn't Metro Parks public land?
It is. It is owned by the Ashtabula County Metro Parks in themselves. But they're an entity of themselves.
Oh, okay. So that would explain why a person would need a permission slip to hunt their property.
Yes. It is private. You know, it's property owned by the public but controlled by this board. So even if, you know, like the county airport, if somebody wanted to hunt there, you need permission to be able to do that. They do allow hunters at the county airport, but even just because it's owned by the county doesn't mean that people can go on that and hunt without permission.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. The other thing, you know, as I mentioned, we're interested in everything that's happening with the county. Getting some good reports on the lodge that it's getting back on its feet, or getting on its feet after a shaky start.
Well, we just celebrated 10 years.
I know, I can't believe
10
that.
years. It's been open for 10 years, and some of the things that have happened there are amazing. You know, I don't have the information directly with me, but the number of weddings that have occurred there, the number of people that have stayed there, those type of things. So it is doing well. It is pacing better than any other state park property in the state, and that brings, when the director of parks was here for the celebration, that brought notice to him that, because we compare every month, you know, we have a process that we go through now, that we work with the management firm, and every month we pace where we're at with that. So, but it is doing well. It is.
That's good to hear, and I've had people on the show and behind the scenes say, you know what, we spent the night there, we went there for dinner. It was a good experience, so I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, we have a lot of people that compliment their experience there, and we work every day to try and improve that, but yes.
Morning, you're on the air.
Good morning. I hate to change the subject,
It's okay.
but I have a question.
Sure.
Since the compost is closed, our land is finally dried, and we've been clearing out, and we have trees and brush. Where else could we go to get rid of this?
There are some private sites within the county. I don't know those right off the top of my head. I know Broke's Tree Trimming Service has one over in the Sabre Township area, but I really don't know. And that's something that's going to have to be developed as time goes on here.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for a good question. What our problem, what the fear is, and I was talking to Nick Church the other night, one of the fears that he is facing is people like that caller there, not that she would do this, but taking it and dumping it on the side streets or the side roads.
It's always been a huge problem in our county. As a township trustee from Lenox, we experience that every day. You know, tires and refrigerators and couches and mattresses. It's a horrible problem, and it's a terrible thing for people to do, to think that they can go on somebody else's property and just dump their rubbish. There are outlets. You know, there are drop-off sites that, you know, they can take it to the Geneva landfill directly. They can take it to the Ashtabula transfer station. They can do things like that. It does take a little effort.
Right.
But they just don't have to. I think one of the things that bothers me the most about this recycling is when I go buy these Goodyear boxes or Goodwill boxes, or I go buy these Planet boxes, the closed donations. It says clothes only.
Right.
There's tires, and there's mattresses, and there's TVs.
It's incredible.
You know, it costs these agencies then to get rid of that, and that's what was happening to us at the recycling centers. As you know, we were doing 3 and 4 pools of these big roll-off dumpsters every week in Conneaut, and it didn't have. And there was 2 sites in Conneaut, and it didn't really have anything to do with recycling. And when you start contaminating that material in those containers, it just becomes waste. So it all goes to the landfill then.
Well, same thing with Bounty Road out in North Kingsville. That's a shortcut for me to get to Home Depot and all that, or Walmart, and it's like I've never seen it so much dumping going on with like you said, couches and chairs and beds and mattresses. It's just ridiculous, you know, and people don't care. They do it at night when nobody can see them.
It just and we have such a rural county that it makes it easy for them.
Sure.
I had a township trustee tell me the other day that in their cleanup they cleaned 14 tires up and they went back the next week and there was 11 more. You know what I mean? It just and this costs the taxpayers. You know, believe it or not, there's a cost associated with that. More of a cost than just picking it up and using the equipment. These townships then have to pay to get rid of this material.
Sure.
So there's a cost association, and people should have the respect for other people's property that they don't do that.
Well, you know what happened, Dan, over here at this thing, at the compost site? They cleaned it up. The city spent the time and energy to clean it up and money, and within days, it was filled back up again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's why they're temporary closing it down. There's nothing more they can do.
The city of Geneva and their recycling, we've worked with them, but they had a composting pile so large it was going to cost us over $15,000
No
to get rid of it.
No,
You know, and it's just, there is not a market for that material. So there's a huge cost associated with eliminating it. And that's why this is going to be the conversation that we're going to have with the community to try and get the best feel for the way we're going to proceed with this plan. We're really trying to communicate with the communities to find out what is it that we want to do here.
Yeah, yeah.
We just don't want to make this decision from Jefferson and not have any input from the local communities.
Well,
So-
like you said from the get-go today, that this is going to be a subject that is high on the priority list, and it's going to be controversial.
Right, it's
Yeah.
not gonna go away
Well,
either.
you know, nobody likes to pay. I don't like to pay. You know, we're going to have to pay one way or the other. You
Yeah.
know, and which way is it that we want to pay?
Right.
You know, I'm not very on a property tax. I'm not really up with that. But actually, that is the least expensive way to do it. But then you only have the property owners paying that, and it just seems to me that every time there's an increase, it's the property owners that are asked to step forward. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are not property owners that realize this service and take advantage of this service, and there has to be a way that they contribute.
Sure, sure.
More so than just the property owners.
Well, you shed a lot of light on a lot of things this morning, and we certainly appreciate it. Come back and see us soon.
I love to come back. I love to
Good.
take these questions. We love to talk about the county, the good things that are happening. There are a lot of good things happening in our county, you know.
Right.
And we got to be proud of our county. We
I
really
agree.
do.
I agree. I think it's coming into play. I really do. I really do. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.